In this video, I wanted to demo a utility I made called All the Inputs. It does two things. The first is input sets and the second is Bobify. These two parts are kind of meant to complement each other, but they also work independently just fine. For first time setup, after importing the module, call the shelf command, and that's pretty much it. As the name suggests, an input set is an object set which acts as an input to a Bifrost graph. To create one, just select a set and press the button. The result will be a new graph. This isn't meant to be edited, rather it just combines all of the inputs into a single object, which can be dropped into whatever graph needs it. When the script first loaded, it will have automatically published a make and break set compound, and this just makes it easier to get to the contents of the set. From here it works just as you'd expect. I can add and remove objects from the set. If I duplicate an object, it's automatically added to the graph. Same thing with deleting. Also, shading groups are just another kind of set, so I could use one of these as an input set, thereby allowing me to assign or unassign materials to control what's in the graph. The other part to this is Bobify, which is a made-up word, but the idea is to convert an arbitrary Maya node with some attributes to a Bifrost object. So I'll use cameras as an example by selecting one and then pressing the Bobify button. Now it's the first time the script is seeing this node type, so I'm going to get this pop-up which gives me a chance to filter out what attributes I actually want to include in Bifrost, since most nodes are going to have a lot of extra junk that you probably don't care about. Below that, I can specify a geo attribute, so this would be like a mesh or something that I want to act as the geometry for the Bifrost object. Since the camera doesn't have any attributes like this, I'm just going to leave it blank. I can also choose to just ignore this node type. So for example, if I were Bobifying a bunch of objects at once, anytime this node type came up, it would just get skipped. In this case, I'll just press save, and now I'll have a new object input with all those attributes I specified. I can also add more cameras without getting that pop-up, since the definition or signature for this node type already exists. And if I look at one of these inputs, it's a Bifrost board with a bunch of set properties for all those attributes from the camera node. Lastly, when a new signature is defined, a make and break compound is automatically published just to make getting to those properties a little easier. I'll also get this type check compound, which is useful for verifying what's what. If I want to make any changes to how the node's converted, I just need to select one of the type I want to edit and press this set sig button, and I'll get that same window as before. These changes won't affect existing inputs, only future Bobify operations. The make and break compounds, on the other hand, will get updated immediately, so you want to be mindful, especially if you're removing attributes from the list, of any existing graphs that may depend on those. This is a test scene to kind of illustrate why this might be useful. Here I have a compound from MJCG's library, which takes a transform, presumably from a camera, and some of its attributes as an input, and you can probably see where I'm going with this. If I wanted to tie this to a Maya camera, plugging in all these attributes would be kind of tedious, especially if I want to change cameras or move this to a different scene, and I'm repeating that process over again. So here's another version of that compound where I've just replaced the inputs with a single object input, and so connecting the camera up is really easy. I mentioned at the start that these two components, input sets and Bobify, are independent but work really well together. The reason for that is now I can drop any mix of nodes into a set, be it normal stuff like meshes and strands, or just anything I've created a signature for, and all of these inputs just take care of themselves, and I don't even need to look at the editor. Lastly, dependencies. These are just like any other Bifrost library. If I were to make a scene and send it to someone else, the only thing I need to worry about is those make and break compounds that I either include the files for them or bake them into the graph wherever I use them. The only caveat is changes they make to an input set won't update automatically, unless of course they have the script installed too.